Hello scoundrels, what's going on? I hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome back to the channel where we're doing some Wild Rift content. I want to focus on Jungle Jax today, and we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video. We're doing a mini guide where we're obviously going to look at the build, the runes, and obviously the spells and the setup. But in the game, I've devised this kind of method where I can draw over the game and mainly draw on the minimap, and I can talk about my thoughts and processes when I'm playing in the jungle on Wild Rift. I'm hoping it helps you out, and I hope you like the style of the video. It's a little bit more in-depth than just a basic gameplay video. But let's briefly talk about the Jax build. So as you can see here, it is Trinity Force. This is the ultimate item for Jax. It synergizes with his kit so fantastically well. Into Blade of the Ruined King. So this is going to give you a lot of burst damage and a lot of sustain. I then like to go Death Stance as a third item. So you're going to get sustain, you're going to get the ability to have extra physical vamp, and you're going to have some ability to offset some damage. I then like to go into Starex Gauge to give you some extra HP, and then eventually Guardian Angel. So these are this is like the perfect bruiser brawler items for Jax. When it comes to boots, we want to go for the physical vamp boots, and then either we go into Quicksilver or we go into Righteous Glory. So if I can have a look here, you either go into Quicksilver or you go into the Glorious enchant. So Quicksilver or Glorious, you could even potentially go into Stone Plate, but you don't have a huge amount of health, so you're not going to get a huge amount of bonus health of this. But I would say that this one, Shadow's enchant, is also pretty good, but Quicksilver, Glorious enchant, Protobelt is even okay, Stasis in the right circumstances. Honestly, a lot of the enchantments are very situational. A kind of one that works in a lot of scenarios, though, is just Quicksilver. But I also do enjoy the Glorious enchant as well, because it's going to help you chase down. And once Jax has used his jump strike, it's a little bit more difficult to get the wins with him. Runes, I quite like Conqueror. Obviously, I think Conqueror is the best for Jax. I then like both of the Hunter runes. I like to get the physical vamp with the AD, and I like to get the max health and the tenacity. It's actually not difficult to get champion takedowns, because it's either an assist or a kill. So you just need to get an assist on a kill on one of each of the individual enemy champions. It's not that difficult, I think, to achieve in Wild Rift, so I think these runes are pretty good. And then because you're playing jungle, I like Pathfinder. Basically allows you to run around the jungle a little bit more quickly and run through the river, especially when out of combat, a little bit more effectively, and get across the map more effectively as well. And of course, when you're in the jungle, you always take Smite, and Flash. And then when it comes to choosing your Smite, I actually like Red Smite on Jax, mainly because he's a dueling champion. Red Smite empowers your dueling capabilities, so I really like Red Smite over the Chilling Smite. And in terms of leveling, you level your second ability first. If I can even, I can't see his ability there. You level your second ability first, then you level your jump strike, then you level your counter strike, which is your stun. And obviously, every time you can put a point in your ultimate, you do. So let's jump into the game together. We're going to go through it, and we're going to draw some stuff on the screen. And I'm hoping it's useful to you. And please let me know in the comments down below if it is useful to you. Yeah. Also, thanks to G2A for sponsoring this video and the channel. There is a reference link in the description below. Alright guys, so I'm going to be doing something experimental here. We're going to be using a piece of software that I've got, or rather just a green screen, like a fake green screen with my iPad, to do some drawing over the map. So see if you can see. Hello everyone. Hopefully you can see that. And we're going to be doing some drawing over the map. What we're going to be doing is kind of talking about what I do in the game. And I know that a lot of you will probably maybe prefer just to watch the game normally, but I like to do these breakdowns because it really helps me. So there are two ways that you can start off when you're playing the game as a jungler. You're either going to go from here to your blue buff, and I would recommend that you try and ward the enemy red buff over here, or you can go to your red buff, and I'd recommend that you try and ward the enemy red buff over there where those dots are, preferably where this dot is, because that's where the blue buff is. So try and ward, the red buff or the enemy blue buff. Those are the two paths that you can take. Most people start at the blue buff for the two reasons that the blue buff will give you health regeneration, and it will also give you resource regeneration, which makes your clear through the jungle a little bit easier. Red buff is better for ganking, so if you're a level 2 ganker and you want to gank mid or top level 2, then the bot lane, the red buff is always going to be the better shout for you overall. So I'm probably going to pause and unpause this video as we go along, but you're going to notice that I am primarily looking to start on the top side of the map. And again, most of the drawing that I'm going to be doing today will be on the mini-map. There may be some situations where I pause in fights and talk about my sort of priority in fights. Now, I don't actually... If you're Lee Sin, you can actually go and very easily ward the red buff and get back in time for your buff to spawn. I decided to go and invade the enemy red buff, mainly because I knew that I was strong level 1 and my top side was stronger. He had Nasus and I was a Jax, and he had no idea where I was. They didn't invest any resources, so I went for a counter strike, and it was pretty easy. I'm not worried about Nasus. Nasus really isn't very good at level 1. Now, the error that I made, I just want you to stop and wait a second here. You can see, like on the map here, he has resonating strike, the red buff. So you want to not you want to make sure that you're not bursting that down while he's resonating strike, because he can try and go for the smite steal. So I waited for it to stop, and then I tried to get it within smite range, and you can see I was 45 HP off. That was an error on my part. I did not do that very well. But the issue that he had is now he's burnt flash, and he decided to engage on me at level 2, and Zed did come from mid lane. So I get away with it, but I am not level 2. Not being level 2 is a little bit of a big deal, because it's going to kind of slow down my clear a little bit. But I do have the red buff, the enemy red buff. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pause again. So starting at my blue buff, which is around here. Let's hope I get it right. Yeah, so starting at my blue buff, which is around here, I have two options. The two options are as follows. I can either use this and then either go top or mid and look for a gank, or I just rotate and do my blue buff and then head into the river. Because remember, I think about 2 minutes, I think it's 2 minutes or it's 1 minute 30, the river scuttlers spawn, and you want to be contesting one of those. So either I can do my blue buff, look for a gank, or clear my blue side jungle, which is here, and then look for the river scuttler in the jungle. Or I go to my red buff, don't clear any of the camps, do the red buff and go straight to the river and look for the river scuttler there. After you've done both your buffs, I mean, a classic start is do your blue buff, go to your red buff, look for a gank, or go into one of the two rivers for the two river scuttlers. So you do buff to river scuttlers, and then either if you're a quick clearer like Shyvana, you can do your camps, or you can just look to engage the enemy or look for a gank opportunity. So those are the options that I've got. Hopefully that makes sense to you. If I were to redo this game again, I can't remember what I did in this game, but I probably would look for an obvious gank, which in the meantime, mid does not look like an obvious gank. Top does look like an obvious gank, so I could do a top lane gank, or I could go straight to my red buff. You always try and smite at the end, by the way, for two reasons. Usually, if you smite at the end, you're going to have taken the most damage, you're going to gain the most HP back. Or it's going to help you secure. So, okay, a couple of things. Look at the minimap. Look at the minimap right now. Have a look where Lee Sin is. He is about there. So I've just put a massive circle over him. Lee Sin is about here, right? Lee Sin is there. And he's either going bot now. He could go for a bot lane gank in this situation, or he could be trying to go into my jungle. In which case, my red buff is in a little bit of an awkward situation. So let's see what he does. Because I need to be a little careful. I'm level 2. I do have smite available. He's not going to gank because the Vayne's just got the kill. And watch him. He's walking into my jungle. So I'm going to sit right at the edge of this blue buff, this red buff. Now, I'm being a little careful because the red buff is dealing a lot of damage to me. I'm saving my counter strike for the time being because I was waiting to see if he turns up. And then I saw him at the Krugs. So you can see him just appearing on the screen here. Sorry, it's a little bit too far over. You can see him appearing on the screen here, right? He's doing my Krugs, and he doesn't do them particularly quickly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to flash over the wall, stop him from getting away, and it gives me a relatively easy kill on him again. So now I'm 2 kills up, and I can start to continue to do something else on the map. In this situation right now, I'm going to do my camp here. So I'm going to do this camp, and then I'm going to go straight up to the river scuttler. That should be what I do here, because I want to secure that river scuttler before Lee Sin gets back on the map. He's already taken the bottom river scuttler. I want to secure the top river scuttler. If he gets 2 river scuttlers, that's a lot of experience and a lot of gold that I've given him over to free. If I trade 1 for 1 with the 2 kills that I've already got, it's a pretty good start for me as a Jax. So that's kind of the plan that I want to have here. Jax doesn't clear camps in a group particularly quickly. So I can see Lee Sin is now at that river scuttler, but I want to contest it. I have my smite available, so I'm just going to walk in. I'm going to kind of position myself in front of it, and I'm going to smite it away. Now, it was a 50-50 smite war here. I have no idea what Lee Sin thought he was going to do to me. He's way behind and doesn't have the buffs. And I also popped my ultimate, and you can see I forced another flash out of him. Now, in this scenario, I've got 2 options. Now, I don't know where the Orianna is, but she is coming into the red side jungle to protect because the red buff has just spawned. So I try and go for a little bit of a trade here. I put some pressure down on the Orianna, but she wastes her ultimate. That's cause enough for me to back out. So I just back out. I can't really contest the red buff with this low HP. Lee Sin will have reset, and I would have been in a bad situation. So I'm going to take the honey fruit, and I see an opportunity to gank Nasus at top because Nasus is very pushed in at top. So this is a pretty easy chance for me to just jump in and just whack him. He will kill the... Unfortunately, the Malphite just gets a little bit too close. He didn't need to be. But I'll take another kill, and snowballing on a Jax, that's pretty good. My blue buff is about to respawn, so I've got some options here. What I can do is I can take my Gromp and then reset, or I can take my Gromp and my blue and then reset. And I think the best thing for me to do in this situation is take my Gromp and my blue and then reset. And then from resetting, I have a couple of paths to go. I'll take the blue buff, I'll go back to base, I'll buy the items. I've pretty much got an entire Trinity Force at this point. And then from base, I'm going to go here. So from base, I basically have a clear path to go stop at red buff if I want to, and then go to dragon. Dragon being a good priority for me in the early game, given I'm so far ahead. You really do want to make sure that, given that you're so far ahead, dragon is a priority for you. And so what I went for is I went for some vampiric boots, which is going to help me sustain. And you can see that I'm heading towards red buff. So I have the option for red buff and I have the option for dragon. What actually ends up happening is if you have a look at the bot lane, just watch what happens in the bot lane over here. My bot lane gets into a bit of an engage. Now I am actually going for dragon. Oh no, I actually go for dragon. It's a little bit later that bot lane engage happens. So yeah, I go straight for dragon because, and the reason I went straight for dragon is because I saw Lee Sin on the top side of the map. I don't know if you guys saw his portrait appeared on the top side of the map. That means it's relatively easy and simple for me to get to the dragon and kill it without Lee Sin actually contesting it. And also Zed comes over and helps me. We don't know where Orianna is. And I'm going to use this opportunity to push into the enemy blue side jungle. This was a mistake. I was really only going to ward to see what happened. Lee Sin decides to kick me away, and I think, fair enough, I'm not going to contest that. Zed's just used his ultimate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the River Scuttler. Now, watch this. This is a pretty good little thing. You can see here we have, here we have Lee Sin and Orianna doing the blue buff. Orianna is going to have to path back from the blue buff this way, or she's going to have to wrap all the way around the turret the long way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover, and you guys can see this, a little bit above that. You guys can see this bit here. This is what I'm going to protect. If Orianna walks through this area, I'm just going to gank her. I'm literally just going to gank Orianna if she walks back through this way. And this is going to provide enough pressure for me. I don't mind taking the damage into the tower right now. She's going to ult me, but I haven't used my ultimate. Should have used my ultimate. But I wasn't really after the kill. What I was after was the turret. That gets me the turret in the mid lane. And mid lane turret is really important for a few reasons. When you get mid lane turret, which is here on the map, it opens up access into the enemy jungle through several different routes without the enemy mid laner having the protection of the mid lane turret. So the mid lane turret opens up the map and especially opens up the enemy jungle because they no longer have a safe haven to retreat to in the mid lane, and that allows both you and your mid laner to be more aggressive with your vision placement and more aggressive with your movements. So I am going for red buff here, but as you can see in the bot lane, there's a bit of shenanigans happening. In this fight, I tried to go for the double stun, and then I just killed the Twisted Fate. I tried to go on the Vayne, but once the Vayne manages to kite me away, there isn't really any point in me chasing that fight now. So what I'm going to do in this situation is just go get my red buff, and then I'm going to say, cool, red buff, back home, reset, and start to think about the next objective. The next clear objective for me is straight up to Rift Herald. That's the next clear objective. Obviously things can happen in that time, but the best situation for me here is to take the red buff, reset, head up, maybe take my blue buff and my wolves, and just do a full clear from base to wolves to blue to Rift Herald. That would be the ideal clearing scenario here. The fact that I also see Lee Sin, so I see Lee Sin being pushed up, and the fact that Zed has got so much mid lane priority, and what mid lane priority means is that Zed is pushing the mid lane in, and that means that means like Orianna is going to have to sit at her second tier turret, and also Lee Sin might be there to protect him. So Zed's mid lane priority is letting me do whatever I want on the two river areas. So it's letting me basically kill the Rift Herald and the dragon with relatively little, I guess, risk. Have no idea where Nasus came back after flashing, by the way. That was a really, really dumb move by him. But because I have the lifesteal, and because Rift Herald really doesn't deal that much damage, I can do Rift Herald for free. Good little tip when you're doing Rift Herald and when you're doing Baron is you should be warding over this wall. So you should be trying to place a ward like, sorry, a little bit, like here. Try to place a ward over the wall. It means that you might not get caught out. I did not place a ward over the wall. And yeah, just watch what happens. It's just a good example of something that I forgot to do that actually does punish me. Doesn't punish me for the Rift Herald. As you notice, I'm going to smite it away. But it does punish me for getting killed. And that's my first death of the game at 5-1. If I'd warded over the wall, I might have been able to play around that a little better. But I wasn't able to play around that a little better because I didn't ward over the wall. Luckily, Zed forces Lee Sin away from my blue buff, which means my blue buff is going to be safe. But yeah, just to be a little aware that that kind of thing can happen. Just double checking, are we getting sound through from... Oh yeah, we might be getting sound through. Yeah, so just to be clear that kind of thing might actually happen. You just have to be a little careful of it. Alright, so I'm going to go for my blue buff at this situation. Relatively easy blue buff take, if I'm completely honest with you. So I've done the blue buff, and now I am essentially looking for any... Because I have taken that mid lane turret, I'm basically looking for any opportunity in either blue or red side jungle. And remember, taking away the red buff and the blue buff are always good ideas. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scout out. I'm going to notice that the red buff is gone, so there's nothing else on this side of the map for me. But, you know, the best thing for me to do, just deny some gold and deny some experience. I mean, look at what... I mean, I have no idea what's going on in the bot lane over here, but I'm too far away to impact it. So there's no point me traveling over there, because either those guys are either going to clean up or they're dead. You know, there's no two ways about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stay and impact the top side of the map, you know. And what I can do what I can do on the top side of the map to impact is clearing a wave, pushing up, dropping the Rift Herald, creating a bit of a nuisance of myself. You know, as you can see, I'm going to drop the Rift Herald here. Now, Nasus does get back into lane. He boots back into lane. There really wasn't much that I could do here. I really mess up this fight, by the way. Instead of smiting, I accidentally flash under tower. Now, that probably confuses him. And luckily, Malphite turns up, and we kill him. But then Orianna's here, and this is the problem with Rift Herald. I think Rift Herald's really difficult to make work in Wild Rift. Lee Sin turns up, but unfortunately messes up, and I had my Counter-Strike available, so we end up getting the kill. And now we have, like, another option. At this point, the clear option for me is reset, red buff, dragon. Like, Infernal Dragon, really important. So, Infernal Dragon has just spawned. I kind of want to keep pressuring the fact that I am incredibly far ahead. And I just want to take those natural resources. You know, at some point, you can't babysit your team the entire time. Like, my team's basically winning really hard right now, so I don't have to do anything. I think I set a lot of that up by nullifying Lee Sin, but, like, for instance, my mid lane just kind of won by himself. I didn't gank that Orianna at all. My mid lane did some really good roams. Bot lane we're kind of losing, but I think I got a couple of good ganks off, and top lane I kind of babysat a little bit, made that Nasus' life a little bit horrible, to be honest with you. But things like the neutral objectives, like Baron and Dragon, you know, they're really important to focus. And Baron and Dragons you can do yourself. Sometimes you just have to try and force your team to come to Baron with you by starting it. But now that I've taken the Infernal Dragon, I can see that the majority of the enemy are in the mid lane area. That was not mid lane area. They're in the mid lane area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take as much as I can from the blue side jungle and then run away. Now I get involved in this fight. This is not a fight to get involved in, but luckily I'm just ridiculously strong. Like this Vayne, she's dead. Like there's nothing she can do. I'm just really, really strong in this situation. My Counter-Strike's on a pretty low cooldown as well. Even though I got kicked by the Lee Sin, like I'm too strong to be in kind of like a full-on engage right now. And I do end up getting taken very low here. I don't know why the Lee Sin didn't go for the kick. I think he could have very easily killed me. But you know, now that I'm open and free, I'm just going to be like, okay, red buff, that's up. That's another free mini objective to take. I'm going to lifesteal back up of it as well. And essentially now I'm going to try and impact the top side of the map. Like there's nothing for me to do. There's no big objectives for me to take, but you can see the top lane is pushed in. So I want to push that wave back towards the enemy top lane. And then I have my blue buff, and then I have potentially Baron to set up for. I make a big boo-boo, and I try to do Baron by myself in a minute, which you're going to see goes horribly, horribly wrong. I would not recommend trying to do Baron by yourself as a Jax with 2 items. I thought maybe I was strong enough to do it, but alas, I was not. It's a good lesson for you. Jax, even though I'm 9-1, isn't strong enough to solo Baron, so this is just a bit embarrassing. In fact, let's just scribble this out. You guys don't even need to see what's going on here. Yeah, Oh, God. Gosh, what's going on the screen? I have no idea what's going on the screen right now. Can't even see it. Can't even see it. There is no way that I just flash out a Baron Pit and die. Cool. Now that's over. Wow, I died. How did I die? Okay. So, following that, there is obviously, within a relatively short period of time, the Ocean Dragon spawning. I do want to take Baron, clearly. Baron will be an important objective for me. But it's not something that I think I'm going to be able to take by myself. I need the rest of the team to kind of step in and help me out here. Zed's in a really, really strong spot at 13-1. The Ezreal's doing pretty good too. We're overall just in a pretty dominant spot as a team. Like they're just diving towers by themselves. So that the plan for me here is go red buff, dragon, or dragon area, and then another neutral objective kind of taken. Everyone is on this side of the map. So another thing that I could do, and actually what I am doing, another thing that I could do is push the wave in at the top lane. That is actually what I'm doing. I can't impact the bottom side of the map here. There's absolutely no point me being there. So there is a huge number of siege minions that I need to get rid of. These cannon minions, they can take down turrets really quickly, including inhibitor turrets. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push that wave in and push it in again. And essentially try and force free turrets just through minion wave manipulation. Now Nasus will appear and clear this out. Or Orianna will at the very least. And also we can see Lee Sin that has just appeared in the middle part of the map here. So I'm not in a completely safe position. I'm not in a super safe position here overall. And the red buff is about to spawn. So I know that Lee Sin and Orianna are here right now. This is going to be a bit of an awkward scenario for me to kind of get involved in. I ward over the wall for Baron. There is the Lee Sin. This is a fight that I probably shouldn't have got involved in. Just because there is quite a lot of people turning up here, and as you can see, the Malphite turns up, and I'm like, oh gosh, can I save the Malphite? I mean, but no, I get shockwaved. That was a really good shockwave by the Orianna, and I basically just Quicksilver and run away. Nothing I can do in that situation. And again, have a look at the timer on your map. I want to be setting up for the Ocean Drake, which I can see spawning in 20 seconds. So a good way to set up for any neutral objective is try and push down the mid lane and generate some pressure. This is a very risky wolf take, in my opinion. And then a fight breaks out in the mid lane. And this is just not a fight that I should have been involved in. I mean, there really wasn't. Like, she just... Really good Hextech belt. I didn't manage to catch the Twisted Fate. And although I take him down, I'm obviously very, very low, and Lee Sin turns up and kills me. Another good shockwave from the Orianna. She's been... Honestly, the enemy Orianna had some really good shockwaves this game. What I should have done in that situation, though, was move from mid and just take the dragon. Like, that would have been a free dragon. If the enemy was smart in this situation, they would have taken the dragon. Unfortunately, they weren't. They had really good wave pressure mid and top, though. I don't know why they didn't take the dragon. They could have taken it, easily. And we've had every dragon so far, but I think they got a little bit caught up on just trying to get kills. Ezreal probably had this fight very easily, and I think he just got a little bit too ham with the attempted kill on the Lee Sin, unfortunately. But the clear path for me now is here, red buff,
could have won this game ages
and
ago.
dragon. This should be the path for me now. Dragon should have been done earlier, but I took my time doing it. I'm just going to get rid of that. But I took my time and I made a bit of a boo-boo. So I'm going to take the red buff, and we're one level away from max level, pretty close to it as well. And we're just going to get the dragon. And again, I can see all of them here. Like, the entire enemy team is here. I can't help my team if they int it, but I can help them by getting the dragon. The only problem with my team ints it in the mid lane is that obviously if I join and die, enemy team can go straight to Baron. So that's why after I take the dragon, I do go in and sort of join up and see what I can do. And this is the problem. Like, I walk straight in. I've lost my counter-strike. The thing that keeps me alive versus the Vayne and the Lee Sin, basically over. So I made a big error there. Like, once the Nasus flashed, I should have cut my losses and sort of backed out and flashed away immediately. But I just kind of overestimated how strong I was. And this is the big issue for us. We made a boo-boo. The enemy team... Oh, stop running it down mid. This is me being like, please stop running it down the enemy mid lane. Yeah. They could have very easily gone straight to Baron. And in fact, I think if they were switched on, Baron would have been the right call. And they would have been able to potentially turn the game around a little bit. The unfortunate thing for them is that Lee Sin just ran it down and tried to dive our Ezreal, which is a bad idea given that Ezreal's got Iceborne Gauntlet. It's a pretty strong item versus AD assassins, especially as an AD carry. I have a feeling that our Zed disconnected, which is why he was just running down mid, because it got replaced by the AI. But yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go straight, take the blue buff here, and then take the, or at least set up for Baron. Like, just set up for Baron at the very least. That'll be my ideal scenario here, just set up for Baron. I know I keep taking blue buff, but I am just really far ahead compared to most people. Zed being the only other person that I think would really be making much use of it. So yeah, by setting up for Baron, what I'm doing is I'm just taking the River Scuttler, and I'm going to ward over the wall, and I'm hoping that Zed just turns up and helps me out. This is what I mean by forcing your team to come and help. Seraphine is helping me. Zed finally sees that we're doing Baron and decides it's going to be a good idea. I ward over the wall, but I can see that we're relatively safe. If you see, like, all the enemies are just here, and then Lee Sin looks like he's coming over, so I get a little bit edgy, but he actually just ends up doing his Raptor camp, or his Razorbeak camp. And then we get a free Baron. Lee Sin checked a little bit too late. You can see that he's come over at the very end, and I decide to threaten him over the wall. And I keep going for it as well. Orianna turns up. Could have flashed out of that, but I had my ultimate enabled, so wasn't that bad. And then Malphite just turns up and gets the kill. So we're in a good spot. And essentially, this is now the point in the game where we can probably push with Baron and end. Like, we've just got a kill. We've taken an inhibitor turret. We have the Baron minions running down mid. This is pretty much end game. If you have a look, Vayne's just chilling in the bot lane for some reason. And if Vayne's chilling in the bot lane, that just makes it easier and easier for us to go for the end. Now, I get a really good counter-strike here, and I help get the kill onto Lee Sin. Unfortunately, I die, but the Ezreal is so strong. Zed, I actually think Zed still might be a bot, because he's just, like, not helping out at all. So we end up just managing to win off the back of the Ezreal and the Seraphine here. It was a little bit edgy. I thought that maybe it was going to go wrong, but Baron minions do help you deal extra damage to the Nexus to get the end, and there we go. We end up getting the win. Hopefully that was helpful for you. I hope you guys learned a little bit from kind of the way that I thought about the jungle in this game, and hopefully you enjoy my setup, because it took me ages to set this green screen up. So yeah, enjoy it, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Feel free to subscribe if you like the content.